ध्यायेत् शारदचन्द्रसुन्दरमुखम् ताम्रारविन्देक्षणम् भक्ताभीष्टवराभयप्रदकरम् कौपीनमात्रोज्ज्वलम् स्वात्मानन्दरसानुभूतिविवशम् सर्वानवद्याङ्गकम् श्रीमन्तं श्रीरमणीश्वरं गुरुवरं योगासनाध्यासितम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् यहमहमिति साक्षादात्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वतामज्जतव पवनचलनरोधा आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्। Namo Ramana. In this Tuesday Satsang from Ramanacentre Center for Learning, Bangalore, we have been reading Bhagavan's Upadesham from the book Years in the Presence of Ramana, My Master, which is a reminiscences by Mahakrishna Swami. His stay in Ramana Ashramam, and following that by the guidance of Bhagavan, he went and opened a Ramanacentre, Ramana Ashram in Brazil. So he has put together his reminiscences, and this has been beautifully brought out as a form of a book by RMCL, Ramanacentre for Learning, Bangalore, by our founder, President Sri A.R. Natarajanji. And we have been reading the second chapter of this book, and which basically talks about happiness, the natural state of being. And last week we looked at a question put to Bhagavan about how to obtain happiness. We will read it. We meditated on the first half of the answer. We will complete it today. However, I'll read the full question and answer. The question after this, we will have a 20 minutes practice session of self-enquiry. And then our president, Sarada would be talking about self-enquiry as it has been contemplated in Ramana Gita. And then finally, we will be having the concluding prayers to Bhagavan. So the questioner is here asking how to obtain happiness. Bhagavan's reply is, happiness is not a state to be attained. The desire of happiness comes from the feeling of insatisfaction, and this pertains to the ego. To obtain happiness, it is not necessary to conquer something new, but only to free oneself from ignorance that makes one believe in unhappiness. The victim of this ignorance is the ego. It is when one destroys the ego that perfect happiness appears naturally. Many people seek happiness in new adventures, discovering new regions, finding rare and curious objects. All this awakens great passion in them. But where can they find happiness? In themselves and in no other place. It is not necessary to seek happiness beyond the self. All have the desire to be happy, protected from all suffering. They also seek to be free from all the diseases of the body and in their own way preserve a great love without which they believe happiness cannot be possible. In deep sleep, even though everything has disappeared, each one has the experience of happiness. However, due to the ignorance of their true nature, men prefer to act according to the erroneous belief that the path of happiness consists in obtaining earthly and celestial pleasures. The pleasure that ends in pain is still unhappiness, and the wise man prefers to avoid it. The different types of pleasure consist of the search of the object of desire still not satisfied. The different types of pleasure consist of the search of the object of desire still not satisfied and the joy of possessing what is desired. So in here Bhagavan is telling that the happiness is the natural state of ourself, and because we are ignorant of our natural state, we are looking for happiness in objects. And this is mainly because of the ego. It is the nature of the ego to keep on looking. What is ego? Bhagavan calls it as Chit Jada Granthi, the consciousness bound to something gross. It may be very gross, like the body in the waking state, or it could be a very gross thing like a thought of individuality in the dream. Whenever this consciousness is bound to an individual notion, whether very gross as physical body or very subtle as the individual idea, it immediately separates itself from all other things that is appearing, because it limits itself to the body or limits itself to that individual idea, and therefore thinks all other things are apart from it. And moment this ignorant idea is held on, and that is the ego, that limitation is the ego. Moment that is held on to be oneself, then naturally, as Bhagavan is saying, one will try to possess more and more things, thinking that some of them is not mine today. If I possess them, I will get happiness. Though it may give a pleasure when we possess it, Bhagavan is saying, suppose I purchase a property, I purchase a car, I purchase something, I may get some pleasure. But at the end of that pleasure is already a pain when I have to let go it or something happens to it. So Bhagavan is saying that is not the happiness that one is seeking. One is seeking an happiness in such a way that there should be no pain, whether physically or mentally, to that individuality. And that Bhagavan is referring, if we look at our own experience of deep sleep. In the deep sleep, when we don't have such an association of ourself to any body or any individual idea, we say we were happy or we were peaceful. But we are not recognizing that by our own nature, when we don't limit ourselves, there is absolutely no pain, nothing to be gained. There is only peace and happiness. So Bhagavan is saying that we have forgotten our true nature. If we go back and find out our true nature, then we recognize that. And very consciously, when we recognize our true nature, Bhagavan is saying that all of this coming and going in the waking, all of the imaginary things of the dream, or the sleep, all of it will be found to be not affecting the true nature. The true nature is pure existence and pure awareness of that existence. And it is peaceful because there is no division or no limitation, no objects to limit itself. And in that truth, in that substratum, which is what all other things are also made of, when one recognizes that, then Bhagavan is saying that is when one obtains the happiness. So Bhagavan here is beautifully covering the error that we do and the ignorant outlook that we have. Though we have many experiences of in a daily life, daily of the waking, dream and sleep, how ignorant is our outlook, that we only take the waking to be real and that to this body, this individual, this thing to be ourself. We never question what is our true nature. But when we do so, then we recognize that the natural state of ours is pure happiness only. There cannot be anything apart from that happiness. So then the questioner continues to ask, is this happiness transitory? Is it something that will come and go? Then Bhagavan says, the natural state of being is the essential nature of all people. How could you want it to come and go? If you do not perceive your own essence, it is because your vision is impure. What obscures your vision? It is up to you to find the obstacle and remove it. The practice of meditation has as its objective the elimination of impurities that obstruct your vision and hide the truth, which is the self. Reality always remains the same. Once conscious, it becomes permanent. So here the questioner again has this, because all our objective experience has been that happiness or pleasure comes and goes. So again the doubt is this happiness too going to our own nature, transitory? Then Bhagavan is saying, how can it be? In our essential nature of state of being, he very clearly says that our natural state is of existence, of being. I am. There is no doubt about it. I am. Even in deep sleep, when they don't experience anything, I am there to know that I did not experience anything. So therefore I existed and I was conscious of it. Therefore Bhagavan is saying, in that natural state of being, which is the essential nature of all, and since we have forgotten that to be ourself, then we talk about this coming and going. But how can something which is existing become non-existent? Something which is aware of its own existence become non-aware or disappear. So Bhagavan is saying that the whole question doesn't stand at our real nature, that our real nature being that of pure being and pure awareness of that being. So Bhagavan is saying, it is only when our vision is impure, that means instead of looking at our own existence as one's nature, when we take our own existence as the existence of the body or the existence of the individuality, then all these questions of transitory happens, because whatever we hold on to is all like we hold on to a body. It had a birth, it is going to have a death. If we hold on to an idea, then it will be there there was a time when that idea was not there. There is a time when it is appearing, and then again there will be a time when it becomes either it disappears or it becomes ineffective, not necessary. So like when the earth is flat was an idea, and somewhere we found the earth is round. At that time, it was very important that earth is flat. But the moment we found that the earth is round, we have the struggle to accept it. But we have, after that, many generations have accepted it. Like that, all these are transitory. Nothing is permanent. But at all times, when all ideas and all bodies are come and gone, I existed and I was aware. That is the most important truth that we are forgetting. So Bhagavan is telling that we have to bring our attention to that truth. Don't obscure your vision. Don't put on all this that appears and disappears as your own nature. So don't obscure your vision, says Bhagavan. Find out what is the obstacle and you have to remove it yourself, he says. It's only through meditation, then Bhagavan says, that what is making me move outward is something that becomes very, very important. Something I am finding myself to be limited, and there is something that I feel outside is going to make it full. Even in meditation, even when we sit for self-enquiry, this question, who am I, can make us feel that we are not having the full knowledge of the question, who am I? I don't know who I am. Therefore, I need to find out the answer. That can make me move. Though I am there, I exist and I am aware, that is the reality. But holding on to this idea of incompleteness, we move out. So Bhagavan is asking us to observe it. You have to observe it and you have to remove that obstacle, he says. So how do we remove it? We simply let go. We let go, and that is what happens in the inquiry. To whom is this? Who am I? And we don't try to answer, because any type of answering is rising mainly because of incompleteness within us. And we think that some idea, some understanding, some knowing, or some doing will bring about that, or will remove that incompleteness. But that is the error, because our own existence is beyond knowing, beyond doing. It is purely being. That's it. I exist. I need not do anything to exist. I do not need to know anything to exist. I exist at all times. And in that recognition, Bhagavan is saying, there will be the happiness. But whenever we move out from that natural thing, then we need to observe what made me move. And when we see that, that is the obstacle. That is because of some incompleteness given attention and believed to become real, believed to be real. Because my own existence gives existence to everything. So moment I attend to something, though it is not real, a thought, it appears to become real because I have lent all my existence to that thought. So Bhagavan is saying, if we keep on removing all those obstacles and we keep on practicing, then all the impurities which cause the obstruction of the vision, which hide the natural truth, which is the self, will go away. And then the reality alone will remain. Then when we recognize it consciously, when we recognize it as that it is without thoughts, without any ideas and without anything, as the truth is, when we recognize it to be naturally permanent. And therefore, in that truth, there is no coming and going. And therefore, the happiness is not transitory, but happiness alone will be recognized as Bhagavan here. With Bhagavan's immense grace, with which alone we have come to this most direct path for the next 20 minutes. No matter how many thoughts come, no matter what is the nature of those thoughts, It is all an obstruction. It is all revealing some a sense of deficiency. Though we are the Purnatva, though we are that pure existence and the pure awareness which can know everything. Letting go that, we are holding on to a limitation and moving. Therefore, Bhagavan says, inquire to whom is this? And the moment we put that question, the answer will come, it is for me. That me is the ego. It is the one which is binding the consciousness to some gross entity. Therefore, Bhagavan says, further inquire, who am I? And then if we try to answer the question, who am I? It is like again holding on to another gross object, which is again giving reality to the ego, the Chit Jada Granthi. Therefore, the who am I question is to seek what do I really refer to as I very consciously. And when we do so, and in that conscious recognition of our own existence, and that being always permanent, we recognize there is nothing to be done, nothing to be known, and the state of happiness is the very nature of oneself. With Bhagavan's immense grace, for the next 20 minutes, let us practice Atma Vichar. Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Ramana. Sarada ka. Namo
Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as the self in all beings. By the immense grace of the self, manifest as Ramana, we in this part of the satsang are meditating on the verses of Ganapati Muni in Ramana Gita and their relevance to our practice of self-enquiry. Ramana Gita is a series of answers from Bhagavan, by Bhagavan, to questions of devotees, and it covers a range of topics beginning from Upasana through the science of the heart, control of the mind, self-enquiry, and various other subjects which are related to the practice of self-enquiry. We are now meditating on the verses in the 18th chapter, in which the questioner will ultimately pose to Bhagavan Ramana the query regarding the glory of the Siddhas or the Jivan Muktas. But before he does so, Ganapati Muni in this chapter has strung a garland of praises on Bhagavan Ramana. So we were meditating on the third verse, which goes, Akhila Samshaya Varana Bhashanam Brahmamadat Viradankusha Vikshanam Aviratam Parasaukhya Dhritodhyamam Nijatanu Vishayeshwala Salasam. In which the Muni says that Bhagavan's words dispel all doubts. Dispel all doubts. So if we take the example, say Bhagavan Upadesha Saram, and about that, Bhagavan's Upadesha being the Saram, Muni says in the following verse, which is verse number 4. Parinatambra phala prabha vigraham chalatarendriya nigraha sagraham amrita chidghana valli parigraham mitavacho rachitagama sangraham. Mitavacho rachitagama sangraham. He says, Muni says in very few words, mitavacho. What has he done? He has composed Rachita Agama Sangraham, the essence of all the scriptures. And such words, which are the essence of all the scriptures, must necessarily dispel all our doubts. So if we take the Upadesha Saram, which is by Bhagavan himself, entitled the Saram of all Upadesha, the essence of all teachings, Bhagavan begins by saying, Karturagnyaya prapyate phalam karma kim param karmata jadam. So what does this indicate to us? It says that karma or action is lifeless. Then what area of doubt does this dispel? If we ask ourselves, what are our doubts about? Normally our doubts are about, should we do this or should we not do this, or should we do something else? So our doubts are all about the area of action and the results of action. But Bhagavan says that karma is jada. Results do not come from actions at all. Results come because of Ishvara Ajna, the ordainment of the divine. So, agnya prapyate phalam. It is not because of the action that the result comes. In that case, why should we worry about our actions at all? We can simply perform the action that is most appropriate for our role at any given point of time. And we will not have any worries about the results of those actions. In a similar manner, every word which Bhagavan speaks dispels all our doubts, and his glance quells the mind. The mind, which is like the mad elephant. That is what Muni says in the third verse. And in the fourth verse, he describes Bhagavan as Chalatarendriya Nigraha Sakraham. He says Bhagavan has completely controlled the fickle senses. And that is why he who has completely controlled the fickle senses, his glance will destroy all sense movements in our mind, all sense attractions in our mind. So it is that his glance is like an ankusha. But how has he controlled all the senses, which is so difficult to do? It is because he says, Amrita Chit Ghana Valli Parigraham. He is wedded to Valli. Because Muni sees Bhagavan as Subramanya or Skanda, he says he is wedded to Valli, who is pure consciousness, blissful consciousness. Amrita Chit Ghana Valli. Ghana, dense, absolutely dense consciousness. Ghana is also a name that is used, or a description that is used synonymously with the self. So, when Muni says Amrita Chit Ghana, Chit is consciousness. Chit Ghana is the self which is full of consciousness. Ramana is wedded. The Ramana Subramanya is wedded to that consciousness. So when one is wedded to consciousness, where is there room for any distraction, any sense attraction? So he is one who has won over the Chalatarendriya Nigraha Sakraham. And to the onlooker, because he is ever abiding in the self, which is pure consciousness, he looks golden. They have described, all those who have seen Bhagavan have described him as looking golden, shining. In his two poems, Satyamangalam Venkatramayar, who had come to Bhagavan at Virupaksha cave, stayed there for about a week or so and composed 5 poems on Bhagavan. Such a one whose whereabouts were untraceable later, that Satyamangalam Venkatramayar, out of the 5 poems, has written 2 poems about the golden form of Bhagavan. One is Ponnai Vattapattu. It is gold-like decad. The decad of gold-likeness. Ponnai Vattapattu. And another is Ponnolirpattu. The decad of the shining effulgence of the gold. What gold is that? Punnai Vatta Purupurusonayil அன்னை ஒத்த அருட்குருவாகிய மின்னை ஒத்த ரமணமை வேதியன் தன்னை கண்டவர் தம்மை மறப்பரே. There he talks of Arunachala as golden, பொன்னை ஒத்த பொறுப்புரு சோணையில். And what is Bhagavan over there? அன்னை ஒத்த அருட்குரு. He is the gracious Sadguru who is like a mother, but Minne Vatta Ramana Mere. Minne Vatta, like he is like the lightning flash, says Satyamangalam Venkatramayar, and so he is golden hued. And he says, Tannai Kandavar Tammai Marappare. Anyone who sees this Ramana will forget their identity. And here Muni says, Parina Tamra Phala Prabha Vigraha. His form, that Vigraha, that is Ramana, is brilliant and shining like Parina Tamra Phalam, like a ripe mango, says Ganapati Muni. So we see that is the real beauty, the real glory is only that of the self. So in this way, by describing the glory of Bhagavan, the Muni is already giving us a background of the glory of the Siddhas, of the Jivan Muktas, about which this 18th chapter is. That is the concept of the 18th chapter. That is a question being addressed in the 18th chapter. So the Muni talks of Bhagavan, who is shining right like the mangoes, brilliant, beautiful to behold, and having conquered all the 5 fickle senses. Having conquered all the 5 fickle senses, he is ever sporting with Valli, who is pure consciousness. About the senses, it is said that some animals, the examples of different animals are given, who go to their death or get caught, get trapped, and get into captivity due to their senses. And it is said that the bee, because of its sense of taste, it goes to the flower and it starts sipping the honey. And evening comes and the bee is not aware and the flower closes. So the bee gets caught inside, even though a small soft flower, the bee cannot come out. It cannot breathe, and very often it may die within that flower. So it gets captured because of its sense of taste. And it is said that the elephant, the majestic elephant, gets trapped because of its sense of touch, because it is attracted to the female elephant. So even the elephant, which is actually invulnerable, one may say, can be no enemy for the elephant. But such an elephant, such an animal gets trapped because of its attraction to the female elephant through the sense of touch. And it is said that the deer, because of its hearing the sound of the horn which is blown when sometimes hunters come to hunt the deer, it gets caught in that sense, that horn, the sound of that horn, and it gets caught by the hunters. So we have the various animals, examples being given to us of getting trapped by the senses. And it is said that when only one sense, the attachment to one sense, can get these animals into such deep trouble, what of us who are attracted by the objects that are revealed to us by all the five senses? So Bhagavan is here, Chalatarendriya Nigraha Sagraham. He has controlled all the fickle senses. So Bhagavan says, of course, he is one who is totally transcended the body idea. He is ever abiding, as the Muni says here, in the consciousness which he calls Palli. Over here, that Chit Ghana is what he is, constantly abiding in. For such a one, there is the play of senses. But Bhagavan says, in case we find that we are unable to control the senses, we can still turn to Arunachala and tell him, "O Arunachala, ஐம்புலக் கள்வர் அகத்தினில் புகும்போது அகத்தில் நீ இல்லையோ Arunachala." When these sense attractions, which remind us of the presence of the senses, distract us, hold us ransom, as it were, then we can turn around and ask Arunachala, can these sense attractions come into our mind, crossing the boundary of your presence? ஒருவனா முன்னை ஒழித்து எவர் வருவார் உன் சூதே இது அருணாச்சலா. So, since you are the conqueror of senses, why should I ever get caught in any sense attraction, O Lord? It is your duty to take me out of this of sense attractions, to unbind my attachment to all these objects. By praising him as one who is the conqueror of the senses, we recognize the importance of turning back through self-enquiry every time any sense attraction arises in us, and to abide in that pure consciousness which is here described as Amrita Chit Ghana Bhakti. And that happens, is bound to happen by his grace. Om Namo Bhagavate Shivaya.
अपार सच्चित सुखवारिराशे यस्योर्मिमात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि. Thank you.